Hello everyone and welcome to SuttonsDaze and to the missing canning chat. Okay, we're going to throw a canning chat up on Sunday. Today's Sunday, yeah. As kind of a makeup for last Wednesday. As you may or may not have heard, I was on my back for pretty much an entire week due to severe neck pain. So we're getting that taken a look at, hopefully handled, but for now, this is where we are. So I wanted to get this out for you guys, make sure that you got some answers to your questions. There are going to be more questions available on Wednesday. So I'll take combinations from questions left on this video and combination of the ones left over from last week. And we'll adjust those this coming Wednesday. Okay, let's get started because we have almost 7 pages. Lynn's Over It asks, are you supposed to follow a recipe? I don't think I ever have. I look at it as a suggestion. Okay, when you are doing recipes, technically you're supposed to be following tested true recipes, okay? So that's why they say, like on the National Center for Home Food Preservation, that if you alter that, you can change the pH, which then alters, you know, the recipe and the safety of the canning. So technically, yes, you're supposed to follow a recipe. If you want to be able to test the pH balance, or if you're, taking something out, not necessarily replacing it, or if you're putting in more peppers but not less peppers, there's a whole bunch of different factors in there. But the overall answer is technically you're supposed to be following a recipe, right? Now, that is also part of the reason why I am big on being an ingredient canner. It does me no good to have, a case of spaghetti sauce in there if I just need a tomato-based sauce to make chili. So I prefer to have the tomato-based sauce that I can turn into, whatever I want it to. That's why you don't see me canning taco meat or, anything like that. It's rare, like with the Mississippi pork roast, that I will can a meal like that, okay? But that's simple, it's easy. I can throw it over rice. I know that we like it. It's all good. And that is the only thing that I will use that for. So it works. But, canning ground beef or something like that, yeah, no. I prefer just to have ground beef. And chicken, I prefer just to have chicken. But technically, you are supposed to base it off of the recipes. Now, I am big on the fact that recipes are suggestions, but not necessarily when it comes to canning. So you want to do your homework. You want to see where you're at in the spectrum of why they want it, canned that particular way. And go from there. I hope that answered your question. Barbara Como says, I've canned a lot of chicken broth, or a lot of broth, chicken and beef. I would like to add the broth instead of water to my beans, etc. But since it's a meat product, can I use it in beans or maybe green beans? Do I have to use the 90 minutes? No, you don't. It is a byproduct of meat, but because there's no meat in there, you don't have to worry about that. So you can just use it like you would a liquid. So I often can black beans in an onion stock, or a vegetable stock. They're really, really good that way. So yes, definitely, you can replace that. Love is Hope asks, how many lids and bands is enough? I am single, but I have a daughter and 2 granddaughters that have nothing prepped, despite me pushing. I have been driving around daily, picking up what I can get on from online ordering around my city. I am getting ready to start canning, but how many jars, lids, bands do I need to start with? Okay. She has 20 boxes, which is 12, each, 16 boxes, 12 each, of wide mouth, approximately above. Okay, so is there a loose rule? No, there isn't. It's kind of every single person is different. I have a standard rule, and it's going to take you a few years. If you're just starting, it's going to take you a few years to figure out what you go through and what you need, okay? Because you may say, oh, I'm going to can onions, and then you find out that they're not really something that, you enjoy having canned. So are you going to do that again? No, you're not. But I figure by meals. So, and actually, we'll probably have a video coming out this week on this because it came up as a question before, on how I figure out how much we need to get us through a year, and then break it down from there. So keep an eye out for that video later on this week. But it's kind of dependent on each and every person. And I personally try to keep at least a year's worth of lids on hand, and the rings, thanks to a couple really great subscribers that sent them to me because they had too many. I buy all my jars used, so they don't necessarily come with rings. So I have plenty of rings now. But it's something that you're going to discover as you move forward and learn how to meal plan using what you've canned up. So check for that video later this week. I think it might help. Kay Anderson I haven't jarred this yet, but if cured meats are a no-no, then what about split pea and ham soup? Okay. I love split pea soup. I love split pea and ham soup. I think you'd have to go onto the National Center for Home Food Preservation. I'm sorry, I should have looked this up. I'm going to blame it on the meds, okay? But I thought that they had a split pea soup, but it's much looser than, say, what I like a thick split pea soup, right? The ham is a no-no because it's a cured meat, you know. But the split pea soup may have a density issue. So check out the National Center for Home Food Preservation in their soups. Check and see on there. I know I've seen someplace like Ball or somebody had, you know, a split pea soup. I don't make it anymore because it tends to raise our sugar pretty significantly. I miss it. I miss it so much. Okay, but check out there and see, because the ham should be a no, you know, because it's a cured meat, unless you get it where it's not cured, and then it's basically just pork. You know what I mean? Jubilee says, question, if I put a new lid on a jar and put it in the fridge, can that lid be recanned? Can it be canned? Okay, so if you haven't canned with it, it can be canned. You're good. Yeah. I mean, if you vacuum seal with it, it can still be canned. So you're good. Hey, Suze, canning water question. I've done it for a first run practice with my canner, but if I intended to store the water for later use for drinking, how long should it be canned for? I'm going to put a link below to my canned water video, and that should give you the information that you need. If you need further information, then be sure to hit me up and let me know. It's a great thing to have on hand. It's, you know, it's very handy. Do I have a ton of it? No, but I do have some for emergencies, so it's a good thing. Jubilee asked another question. What is the difference between the jiggler on the Presto and the weighted gauge on the All-American? Great question. Really great question. So weighted gauges being made are either one piece or several pieces. Now, the one on the All-American is one piece. It's kind of like a dial. You know, you change it. Sorry about the fly, guys. It's that time of year. So then, but the Presto has the ringed weights, right? So an All-American and Miro are one piece, fitting holes for 5, 10, or 15 PSI. The Presto is a 3-piece, and you take off the ring depending on what it's supposed to be. The Miro weight is supposed to jiggle 3 to 4 times per minute. I legit have never sat there and counted how much per minute, but that's basically the same, only different. Sharon Dothage, after watching a video on canning kielbasa, I canned turkey kielbasa. I also canned Little Smokies. But after watching your Q&A tonight, I'm wondering if that's considered a cured meat. No, it's not. Now I'm going to put a link down below on what is considered a cured meat. The issue with the Smokies and the hot dogs and the kielbasa is the casings, number one, and the texture, number two. Now, I love kielbasa. Phil loves Little Smokies. I like hot dogs. Do I like them once they've been canned? No, the texture is just awful. At least for us, the texture is awful. Now, if I'm making a soup with it, you know, with the kielbasa cut up in there, different ballgame. Okay, that's fine. But I think we have to try to revert back to the fact that not everything belongs in a jar. So keep your expectations reasonable, you know. But that is not a cured meat. I'll put a link down below, like I said, that has a list of all kinds of cured meats. It's a really great article. I think you'll enjoy it. Adam Kelly, is it safer to blister shishito peppers and can them, or would you just pickle them without blistering them? First time growing them and have tons along with other peppers. So blistering your peppers is pretty much flavor and to remove, you know, the skin, because some people have texture issues with the skin. You could also pickle them, absolutely. You know, either way. Two different things. They're two different things. So that is totally up to you on how you want to do it and what you're planning on using them for at a later date. CC December 2018, do we only can approved recipes from Ball? Everyone is canning bean and ham soup. Can we use their recipe? I have northern beans, ham, celery, carrots. Is that allowed? Check out the National Center for Home Food Preservation. Okay, that is your checking point right there. So if you can find in their archives a ham and bean soup, then rock on. But I don't think you're going to find it. Now, you may find a bean soup, at which point you can add ham later. It's Rebel Canning. It's a cured meat. So that's one of those things where I'm going to, you know, sure, you could can it because everybody, you know, else is doing it. Should you? You know, that's totally your call. And if you know why they're saying that it's not approved to can, and then you make that decision, your kitchen, your rules, your responsibility. Okay. Deborah Erickson, have you ever canned water in half-gallon jars? I have not, but my good friend Linda over at Tulilu Creates has. I will link her video down below. Kimber Kim, whenever I have a jar of water go through the canner, there's always stuff floating on the bottom of the sealed jar that looks like glitter. Any idea what it is? Nope. But, you know, okay, are you on well water? Is your water softened? You know, there's like a whole bunch of different questions that could lead up to that. I really have no idea though. I'm sorry. Holly Nelson, what's the difference in diced tomatoes compared to whole or stewed tomatoes? I didn't know there was a difference. I've been doing it for years. Okay, and from my understanding, from what I've been reading, it's strictly a density issue, and they haven't tested it. So that's why. That's why. Dustin Roberts, what is the best way to can frozen sausage that is already in rounds such as Swaggerty's? Should I par cook it, or can I drop them into the jar on top of each other? Okay. And Dustin, I'm going to ask you what your expectations are of the end product, okay? I have canned sausage patties that I made myself. Now, number one, I'm not familiar with Swaggerty, so I don't know if there's anything in there other than sausage, okay? If there is, you know, you may have an issue. No grains, no dairy, that kind of thing. Then, you know how when you cook meat, okay, when you grill meat or you know, fry meat, the natural fiber of the meat creates a resistance, okay? And when you are canning it, essentially what you're doing is you're boiling it. Now, a lot of people do this. To me, it's an undesirable end product because there is none of that tension. It basically crumbles, you know, and that's not what I want for my sausage patties. If it's just plain sausage, yes, you could just stack them in the jar, fill with water, make sure you debubble, or, you know, fill with some kind of stock. I don't know what kind of stock, fill with water. And then when you're ready, pull them out, drain the water, try frying them up a little bit to improve that texture a little bit if you want. You know, it's doable. It's doable. Anna Martinez, I've watched your meatball video several times because it's my next project. What do you think about adding ground pork rinds for keto or shredded zucchini to sneak in the veg? Okay, ground pork rinds, no. They wouldn't hold up, and they're completely unnecessary, okay? It's like the world at large seems to have a problem with making meatballs without some kind of binder, okay? The binder is created strictly, A, to bind it, B, to reduce the amount of meat to make it. It's an extender. It's a meat extender, okay? So you don't need a binder. Nope, no eggs, no breadcrumbs, no pork rinds, not necessary. As for shredded zucchini, heck yeah, definitely. Mix that in there, form your balls, bake them in the oven. You have meatballs. It's an awesome, awesome thing. Michelle Fulford, second time, sorry. Let's see. Question is about taking jars out of the canner when removing. There's water on top. Some say dump it off. Others say not to tip them. Is there a reason not to tip them? And should you or should you not tip to dump it off? Okay. The thing with tipping them, okay, is if you're tipping the jar, then if it's, you know, the seal is not perfect yet. So it may cause, you know, contents to get in between the lid and the jar. So I don't tip them. Now, if it's a lot of water, honestly, I've never had a problem, but if it's bugging me one particular day, I very lightly just kind of dust a dishcloth across the top and it kind of just absorbs it, you know, by nature. Don't push, do not push, okay? Otherwise, just leave them sit, you're fine. Sue Lowe says, hello, Lisa, I have a casserole filling recipe that is primarily lima beans and butter peas, but it contains some chopped ham. Is it okay to can this filling with ham, or should it be added later when the casserole is made? Make it later when you do the casserole, okay? Jamie Taylor, I've been watching your videos for a year and a half. Absolutely love them. Thank you. And I have a canning question. Have you ever canned smoked meat? Yes. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I'm telling you, you go get yourself some pork butt, you smoke that bad boy, you cut it up, you put it in there with some broth. It is the bomb. It is the bomb, okay? Let's see, a lot of leftovers. Yes, absolutely. Do it. Can it be smoked? Can smoked meat be canned, and would you add broth or sauce? You must add some kind of liquid. I wouldn't necessarily add a sauce because those tend to have a higher sugar content and it can scorch, but a broth, you won't regret it, seriously. DJ Jansen, I had a new jar with quite a few bubbles in the glass. I didn't use it. I was worried it would crack. What do you think? I wouldn't use it either. And I'm hearing that, you know, Ball is kind of dropping the ball with the quality. You know, the quality control is lacking. So I'm seeing a lot of defective jars pop up on the internet. So yeah, I wouldn't use that. I might actually reach out to the manufacturer and say, what this? Hello. Rose Moore. I canned pickled cauliflower and carrots, but I forgot to add a half teaspoon of pickling salt to each jar. Will they be okay? Yeah, they'll be okay, but you might miss that taste because that's for taste. STS. I often make broth from fresh pork shoulder, not cured, but cannot find a recommendation for canning it. Can I use the same time and pressure used for beef? Yes, you can. Great question. Melody Vest. I know it changes the recipe, but it is okay to use tomato paste and spaghetti sauce in the National Canning Book without meat. I pressure can add citric acid. Is it okay to use onions in place of the optional mushrooms? Yes, because you're adding the citric acid. Okay, that's my reasoning. How's that? Karen Johnson, can you use any salt to pressure can? No. Okay, so iodinized salt, whatever that word is, that doesn't sound right to me right now. Anyway, has a non-caking compound that makes things appear cloudy. It can really make it very unappetizing, worse than ugly chicken, my understanding. So don't use that, okay? Use pickling salt, use canning salt, use kosher salt, and you're good to go. Robin Castle. I am not sure I understand what the typo is on page 310. Okay, that's going to be coming up later on this week too, but if your page 310 looks exactly the same as what's on the website, you're good. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It looks like some editions came out with an error extra line. Don't worry about it, okay? kellarr. I have a question about stacking jars. Storage is at a premium, so I'm looking for creative ways to store my processed foods. We get cases of pickles, mushrooms, drinking glasses, etc. that come in sturdy cardboard boxes with dividers. Can I store my processed jars in these boxes and stack them to the rafters as long as there's space between? Okay, so yes, because you're resting it on the box, don't stack it to the rafters. Okay, don't do that because they're not stable, and so it can cause issues. So you don't necessarily want to do that. If I'm thinking of the boxes that you mean, you're normally good for 4 to 5 as long as they are secured against something, you know, solid like a wall. But I would not go much. I honestly wouldn't go higher than 4. I might not go higher than 3 depending on the box. You need to make sure they're stable because life happens and it sucks. Okay. Allie, a like for him. I like my spinach and kale frozen for storage, but considering all that is going on in this world, I'm wondering if I can take the frozen simply blanched greens in the freezer and can it. Second, if it is possible, some of my frozen kale was cooked down using a little butter. I am thinking that might be unsafe to can. Am I correct? Okay, so for the first one, yes, you can can it. And it'd probably be a heck of a lot easier than trying to do fresh because they're already blanched, right? So you're good. Fill it up, follow directions after that. Now, as far as the butter, I mean, you're still going to add liquid to it. So if you're just using a little bit of butter, you should be fine, okay? But when you put it in the jar, either one is going to have a liquid added to it. So I would definitely, as long as it's not swimming in butter, do you know what I mean? You're good to go. Petunia Granny, I have a question. I have 2 Presto canners. How often do you need to replace the rubber gasket? There's no, one and all answer for this. It's going to depend on how often it's used, how often it just sits there, conditions, so on and so forth. So best bet is always to have a spare in your pantry for backup. Kay Miller says, is canning and pickling salt the same thing? Ha ha ha. Okay, so also known as canning salt or preserving salt, pickling salt is simply pure granulated salt, sodium chloride, without any caking agents or additives that are traditionally added to table salt. These additives can add a cloudy or darkened look to the pickle brine, which is why it's left out of pickling salt. So yes, they're the same thing, only different. Same thing. Fran H, my question is, can you safely can cabbage in a soup recipe as an ingredient? They did remove cabbage a lot on the National Center for Home Food Preservation. Here's my thought alone, okay? and you have to make this decision for you. I make a cabbage soup. Now, it is not filled with cabbage. It is a vegetable broth that has some cabbage in it. And I've done that, you know, for quite some time. I enjoy it. Phil doesn't like it, so it's kind of a waste for me to make it just for myself. But it's, you know, it's good. So the issue with cabbage is that it becomes more pungent over time. So it's not, for me, a long-term storage item. And also because the nature of the cabbage leaves, even though they're shredded when I put them into the soup, air bubbles, pockets can still get trapped under there, so that's a concern for bacteria. So that's going to have to be a decision that you want to make for you and yours to decide whether or not, you know, you want to risk it. Java who? Okay, canning question. I just watched your sweet potato soup. It looks yummy. I will definitely give it a try, but my question is, if you left out the butter and the milk, would you can the soup, adding the butter and milk and at the time you open the jar? Okay, so me, knowing what my consistency was, yes, okay, but you're not supposed to can pureed squashes, you know, potatoes, that kind of thing, because they become too thick, too dense, and they can't guarantee that the heat, you know, and whatnot goes through there. Now, I know that this was not a true pureed soup. I mean, my split pea soup comes out thicker than that stuff did, right? So it's more of a brothy soup, you know what I mean? So I probably would, as long as it's not thick. With the understanding it's going to thicken up when you can it. But not approved. Totally up to you. That's where I'll leave it. Okay. Okay. I'm blaming it on the meds, you guys. Okay, Kathy Knowles, last question. I had a strange thing happen. I'm wondering if this has happened to you. I canned broth, did all the steps, used new lids. I usually let my canner rest for 30 minutes before I remove the lid. As I was taking the jars out of the canner, one lid sealed, unsealed, sealed again, unsealed again. I walked away and heard this lid unseal and reseal. Made a small pop, freaked me out. I marked the jar, but it's still sealed. There is some phenomena, okay, with broth, where sometimes this happens. I don't know why. I have never researched it to find out the why, but it does happen. So it's perfectly normal. Check the seal, you know, 18 to 24 hours. If it's all sealed, clean those jars up, stick them on your shelf, you're good to go. Some really great questions. Again, I apologize for not being around for the week. I could not do the video chat laying on my back, okay? But we'll be back hitting it hard for the next few weeks for the rest of September. Hope you guys got a chance to check out some of the collabs that we're in this month. We've got 30 days of preparedness. We have Soup-tember, and we had, oh, did you see the back of the pantry challenge? That was so good. It was so good. Okay. So that's what I got for you today. I hope that you are all having a fantastic weekend. I will see you for sure on Wednesday with a video, and I'll see you tomorrow. Remember, yeah, I'll be around all week. Remember, if you like what we do here, please hit that like, subscribe, and share. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook. And until the next time, be safe.